Good evening. This is the Board of Trustees regular meeting. The date is September 9th, 2014. The time is 7:31 p.m. This is meeting number 2014-25. Clerk Quinlan, please take the roll.
President Barry?
Here.
Trustee Quinlan?
Here.
Trustee Olenichek?
Here.
Trustee Desmond?
Here.
Trustee Carberry?
Here.
Trustee Vorder?
Here.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would everyone rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have two public comments today. One is, Nancy Ficcaro. She's looking for explanation and expansion of statistics in regarding to former 911 service. Would you care to come to the podium? Hi, Nancy. You have 3 minutes, and please state your name and if you're an Oak Lawn resident.
My name is Nancy Ficcaro, and I have been an Oak Lawn resident since 1978. I wanted to expand on some information that was divulged at the August 12th meeting by Mr. Desmond, by Trustee Desmond, who cited that the 911 dispatchers had made 157 disciplinary problems, or there were actions in 157 instances against those 911 dispatchers.
Excuse me, I did not say that.
Okay, we're going to let her talk, Tim, then I'll give you
I
an
didn't
opportunity.
mention any amount.
Okay,
Yes,
go.
yes, sir, you did.
No, I did not. Check the minutes.
Okay.
I was here, sir.
Okay, I'm not going to have arguments. Nancy, if you could say your piece, and then Trustee Desmond, I'll have you respond.
Then I'd like my 3 minutes to start over again,
They're still ticking.
since
ma'am.
I was interrupted.
I'll go over the amount of the interruption.
As to those multiple instances of errors, 157 serious errors made by the dispatchers over 7 years. By my calculations, if NORCOM has handled 100,000 calls, which their representative mentioned in their presentation to the village in the 7 months they have been working, that is approximately 14,285 calls per month, or 174,429 calls per year. Under the former dispatchers, that would mean they handled about 1,221,003 calls over the 7-year period in question. 157 errors in 1,221,003 calls is 0.0125%, or a little more than 1/100th of 1%, or a little more than 1 error per 10,000 calls. Now, it is my opinion that errors can be made, but 1 in every 10,000 calls is not serious in my book. So therefore, I am asking the village board to consider releasing the number of errors made by NORCOM, since it is in their contract that they do a review of their errors. And I'm asking the village board to, if you can cite 157 errors over 7 years in 1 million calls, I'd like to know how many errors NORCOM has committed. As to the days off that Tom Phelan mentioned, it was quoted in Phil Cadner's column, I have to put my glasses on. 365 days a year minus 104 days off, that's 2 2 per week times 52 weeks equals 261 working days a year. Over a 7-year period, that's 1,827 working days. There were 27 dispatchers, so there were 49,329 working days. 885 sick days out of those working days is not one every 3 days, as quoted by Tom Phelan in Phil Kadner's column. Those sick days count for about 1.8% of the total number of working days, or one sick day taken about every 55 days. I'm angry that the citizens of Oak Lawn are being misled by improper statistics. I'm a former math teacher. I did the math.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Trustee Desmond? Anything you want to say?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to correct her on that
Okay,
first item.
thank you very much. Okay, and our next public commenter is a little hard to read the name. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. It's Steve Rolink regarding a swimming pool. Hi, Steve. Every resident has 3 minutes for speaking. Please state your name and if you're an Oak Lawn resident.
I've been here, my name is Steve Rowlands, and I've been here since 1978. And recently I found out that the people in back of me want to install a swimming pool. I strongly object to the swimming pool because I have reason to believe that they're running a daycare center. And we have, during the summer, we have screaming and yelling from morning until late in the afternoon. Not 1 day a week, not 2 days a week. This goes on for 3 months, every day. Saturdays and Sundays, Saturday sometime, and on Sunday, there's no noise whatsoever. So what does that tell you? So that's my complaint, and I'd like to have it stopped. I'd like to have Oak Lawn check into this daycare center or whatever it is, and the address, I don't know their name, but the address is 4544 West 101st Street. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Vorder, it looks like you have a response.
Yeah, this is in my district, and I assured the gentleman that I would look into the possible operation of an illegal business. This swimming pool is, we don't permit above-ground swimming pools. This is an impervious surface issue here that they come before the board, and if we were to deny this, they still could put a pool in, but a smaller pool. But if they're running an illegal business, I will ask our housing department to look into it on Monday. Or correction, tomorrow,
Okay.
Wednesday.
Trustee Quinlan?
Thank you.
Clerk.
Clerk Quinlan,
Thank
excuse
you.
me.
Trustee Vorder, I already did check into this. There is no daycare center there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for those comments, everyone. I'm going to start out with the meeting with just a little, may I see the agenda just real quick, Jane, I'm sorry. I'm just going to start out, thank you, little bit of a discussion about storms in Oak Lawn. Our Oak Lawn Emergency Management Agency just posted on the Facebook page. Again, another severe round of storms are expected this evening. Everyone is concerned about the storms and the flooding. Our Malvina Ditch Reservoir in the past 10 years prior to this year has overflowed its boundary once. In the past 6 months or the past year, it's done it twice. The storms are increasing in frequency, increasing in severity. This is taxing our system, which is already suffering from lack of detention and lack of outflow to the limits. So I do want to talk a little bit about the concerns we've had as a board. We did meet with MWRD on August 27th. That's the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. We met for several hours talking about the water issues in Oak Lawn. There are projects planned for Oak Lawn Creek, which runs kind of through Oak Lawn Lake, and then the Malvina Ditch, which runs in District 1 on the west side of the Chicago Ridge Mall. Both of those are several $1 million projects, I believe 13 or $14 million that they're working on. But when it flooded so badly, the most recent flood, the morning of that event, we had MWRD Commissioner, President, Meany, and the Executive Director, St. Pierre there. They were viewing the damage firsthand. I can tell Oak Lawn residents that flooding is on the radar. We are working very hard. They're reevaluating the stormwater master plan that they had started. They're looking at specifically the Melvina ditch, trying to expand that, trying to change the flow a little bit. The problems are either we're not getting enough outflow or we're not getting enough detention. We have plans for detention. We'll talk about those later. But I was assured by MWRD from the horse's mouth that this is on the front burner, and they understand, and this is their quote, we need more volume, and they're working very hard to do it. They're reopening the books on those projects and looking at this strategically. And I think that's all I wanted to say about the flooding just starting out, and we're going to go on the agenda real quick. This is item 4 on the agenda. This is a request to approve the first annual St. Linus 5K Turkey Trot Run on Saturday, November 22nd, 2014. May I have a motion, please, on that item?
Motion approved.
Properly moved by Trustee Quinlan. Seconded by Trustee Desmond. Any discussion? Please take the vote.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is a request to approve Cub Pack 3619 23rd Cub Mobile Derby on September 27th between the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is to take place on Mayfield Avenue between 96th Street and 97th Street. And this was the event originally scheduled on July 17th, but again, canceled due to severe rain and
Motion
flooding.
approved.
Properly moved by Trustee Olenichek.
Second.
Seconded by
Trustee Strike.
Trustee Strite. Thank you. Any discussion here? Please take the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Item 6 on the agenda is a memorandum of understanding with the Village of Oak Lawn and the Johnson Phelps VFW Post 5220 regarding a public-private partnership for the provision of senior services to the residents of the Village of Oak Lawn.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Have a motion to
Second.
approve by Trustee Warder and seconded by Trustee Olenichek. Did you have the actual document to sign by any chance with you?
It'd be my packet.
Okay.
You need?
Yeah. Commander Johnson. Thank you. I have it right here, Jane. Could you please step up to the podium? I'm going to just talk a little bit about what the village has been doing, and I want to introduce you, sir, and hear what the VFW has been doing. And then I have the document. We could both sign it on camera if you want while you're here. So very good. So as you know, as our residents know, senior services are in a temporary home. We're looking to transition them into the center of town through a shared arrangement with the Johnson Phelps VFW. This is a shared use, and it is a win-win for both organizations. I've asked everyone for feedback. I've heard no negative feedback. I'm delighted to say the seniors had their box lunch meeting there, their most recent one last week, and everyone was thrilled, happy. They loved it. They wanted to just say, don't worry about building anything. We're ready now. Let's move in today. Commander Johnson, would you like to say anything about how the veterans feel?
Veterans think it's a great idea. They've given me the authority to sign this memorandum we're going to sign here in a couple minutes. And,
with board approval, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry, with board approval. If beforehand, if any of the board members have any questions of me, I'm here to squash rumors or answer any question you have.
Okay. Is there any discussion by the board on this item? Any questions for Commander Johnson or myself?
I'd just like to thank him for his service to our country.
Very good. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. Trustee Warder.
And I'd like to just say that this senior concept is an evolution from losing their initial facility to the temporary one, discussions with the Park District and how we can partnership. That didn't work out, but I think it didn't work out for the best, because I think this concept, this idea of partnership and with your facility, my facility, been a member there for 40 years, okay, is a great combination, and I hope this comes to.
It's a great idea, and let's be honest, most of the members of our post are seniors. And in 20, 25 years, when I'm a senior, I'd like to still be able to go to the VFW and, maybe go there for the senior center as well.
And what I love about it is it cements the relationship in the center of town for both the VFW and the seniors, so.
Beautiful.
Okay, please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Straight.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Commander Johnson. I'm gonna sign first. And there you go. We have our agreement. Now, this is preliminary. This is not a final thing. But the engineers are gonna look into it, and we're gonna price it out. It may still, both parties can still say, nope, it's not a good fit. But this is the first and important step towards making it happen. So
Great.
Thank you for coming to our meeting.
Thanks for having me.
Any other questions for the commander?
I have my own meeting to get to, but thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you. Now, item 7 on our agenda is Resolution 142550. This is a resolution approving, I'm sorry, we're on item 8. Pardon me, item 8, Resolution 142551.
It was 50.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so we did the memorandum, now we do the resolution. Pardon me. Resolution 142550, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between the Village of Oak Lawn and the Johnson Phelps VFW Post 5220. May I have a motion on item 7?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Oliniechek, seconded by Trustee Vorder. Any discussion? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
And Trustee Straight.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 8 on our agenda tonight is Resolution 142551. This is a resolution approving a professional engineering services agreement with White & Company, WIGHT and Company, pertaining to the initial facility assessment and preliminary design study of the Johnson Phelps VFW Post 5220. May I have a motion on item 8, please?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Vorder,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Oliniechek. Any discussion here? Please take the roll.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Straight.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 9 on our agenda is an audit presentation by McGladrey LLC. Anyone from McGladrey? Yes, can you please come to the podium? And you have the floor.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John George. I'm an audit partner with McGladrey. And this is Katie Berry with me. She's our audit manager. She was involved in the review and field work of the audit. So we're going to cover a little bit of the audit process. We're going to talk about some financial highlights. Katie will cover that. And then the other deliverables, the report to the board, we'll cover some of the highlights of those. So as we're going through, obviously, you can feel free to ask any questions. We'll do our best to answer any questions you have. Overall, the audit process started, it's a long process. It's a large engagement. We started the process back in December with our planning meeting with management. We review the risk assessments, our audit plan, our approach, our timeline, and discuss that, make sure that we're all on the same page on the approach and timing of the audit. Our preliminary field work was in January. And that's where we really focus on internal controls, systems, processes, documentation. We focused on payroll cycles, are your most significant transaction cycles, and the cash disbursement accounts payable cycles. So we'll get an understanding of those cycles. We perform tested controls over those cycles as well. Our final field work was performed in April through May, mid-April through May. And that's where we perform our substantive test of details, where we're testing the balances that managers present and the financial statements through confirmations, through supporting documentation, verifying the balances that have been presented from management. We had an exit meeting with management and the mayor and the treasurer in June, really recapping the drafted financial statements in detail and all the deliverables, answering any questions that management had. We wrapped up with the issuance of the financial statements on July 29th. And issued final financial statements on that date. And that brings us to today. We're presenting the financial reports. I'm going to let Katie cover some of the financial highlights in the large bound document that you have, and we'll answer any questions as we go.
All right, so what you have before you is a comprehensive annual financial report, and I'm going to spend the next chunk of time going through the financial statement highlights, as John mentioned. So we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is the highest level of assurance that an entity can receive during an audit. The village submitted this comprehensive annual financial report to the GFOA at the end of July, and they expect to receive the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting, which they have received for a number of years now. So just to kind of walk through the components of the report that you have in front of you. So as I mentioned, pages 1 and 2 is the opinion from McGladrey, which is the unmodified opinion. Pages 3 through 20 are management's discussion and analysis. That's a really good narrative of the financial results of the village that occurred during the year. Pages 21 through 23 are the government-wide financial statements. Those are on a full accrual basis of accounting, which means that long-term assets, like your capital assets, and long-term liabilities are recorded in these financial statements, which are different than your fund financial statements. That's more current information, which you're receiving in your regular board meetings. So just to point out a couple of the items on the government-wide financial statements on pages 21 through 23, during the current year, the village did implement a GASB statement number 65, and this was called Items Previously Recorded as Assets and Liabilities. So this statement basically did two things to your government-wide financial statements. It wrote off the bond issuance costs that were previously capitalized on the government-wide financial statements. So that was $553,000 in the governmental activities and approximately $167,000 in the business type activities. So there's a restatement to beginning net position for that amount. The other thing that GASB 65 did is it introduced two new categories to the government-wide financial statements. Previously, it was assets, liabilities, and net positions. These two new categories are deferred outflows of resources and deferred inflows of resources. So if you were to compare these two reports between 2012 and 2013, you'll see new categories on your government-wides and fund financial statements for that. One of the other things that the village did during 2013 is they reviewed their revenue recognition policy for property taxes on the government-wide financial statements. So previously, when a levy was passed in December on the governmental activities, the village would recognize revenue for that levy. In 2013, we restated the beginning net position to make that revenue recognition in line with your fund financial statements. So there is also a beginning net position restatement for review of the revenue recognition policy. And the details of those restatements are included on page 54 of your financial statements. Other things to point out on your government-wide financial statements, as I mentioned before, that's where your long-term obligations, like your general obligation debt, as well as your net pension obligations and other post-employment benefit obligations are recorded. So just to highlight where those numbers are, on page 22 of your financial report, you can see that there's a net pension obligation of approximately $28 million. That's comprised of $1.1 million of IMRF, 13.2 police obligation, and 13.9 fire pension obligation. And just to further clarify those numbers, there's an upcoming GASB statement that's going to be effective for the village for the year end 2015. And that changes how those assets and liabilities are going to be recorded on your government-wide financial statements. So the village receives an actuarial valuation every year where the actuary determines an annual required contribution, annual OPEB costs, and there's also accrued actuarial liabilities that kind of is more long-term liabilities. And what GASB 68 does, it's going to change the number that's reported on your government-wide financial statements. So to put it in perspective, if we were to early implement 68 on these financial statements, instead of showing a $28 million number, it would be approximately $98.2 million of net pension obligation and approximately 28.3 of other post-employment benefit obligation when the exposure draft is on that one.
Yeah, there's a current, the GASB 68 is the reference that Katie's referring to, the pronouncement that's going to pick up that police and fire and IMRF pension obligations on your government-wide financial statements, the unfunded actuarial accrued liability. Currently, we're just recording the difference between what the contributions are that the actuary is calculating versus the required contribution, which is what we're actually contributing. So that difference is what we're recording. When we implement that pronouncement next year, we'll be recording that actuarial accrued total liability. So that's going to bump it up to $98 million. The OPEB obligation, that's an exposure draft right now, but that will have the same impact once that's issued. The plan is that unfunded actuarial accrued liability for that OPEB plan will come onto the government-wide financial statements once that's issued.
Real quick, just to give everyone the perspective, police is about 45 million of that number, fire is about 45 million, the OPEB number, and I'm rounding, is about 30 million, and IMRF is about 10 million. So that's, when we talked before, we've had a number of budget meetings, and we've talked about these unfunded pension obligations. Those are the numbers that are going to be booked as far as the accounting profession on next year's financials.
So what is that total at this point? Is it the 98 million?
It's, well, in total, again, 90 million is the pension obligation. The OPEB, which is the retiree group health, Alex, is about 30 million. So the total unfunded obligation is about 130.
So the 90,
it's 130 million, not 98 million?
The 98.2 that I'm referring to is just IMRF, police, and fire. So the support for those numbers are on pages 76, 77, and 78 of your financial report. It's the accumulation of the unfunded AAL, if you're on pages 76 through 78.
Then the other component that Mr. Hannigan's referring to is the other post-employment benefits, and once that exposure draft is issued, it would have the same impact, and that amount is about $29 million.
So it's about 130 total,
Correct.
and that rises every year, correct?
It's based on the actuarial assumption, so
it changes every year.
It doesn't necessarily rise, though.
Yeah.
Actually, since last year, that obligation it depends on what you as a village contribute to those plans, right? So the OPEB plan is really a pay-as-you-go, so you're not really making any contributions to it. It's the pensions, the police, fire, and IMRF. That just depends on what you're contributing as comparison to what the required contribution is.
Right, but the old plan was pay-as-you-go, and if you didn't pay it, you just kicked it down the road. The new plan is if you don't, we're going to start taking money away to pay it.
That would be on the pension side, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Keep going.
Okay, so onto the fund financial statement highlights. So the fund financial statements, those are on a modified accrual. So that's pretty comparable with what you're receiving every board meeting from the finance department. That doesn't include all of your long-term liabilities and non-current assets. So on pages 24 and on are your fund financial statements, and just wanted to point out a couple items in these. On page 26, we recorded a special item this year in the 111th and Cicero TIF, and that had to do with the land held for resale in previous year. On the 111th and Cicero, there was land held for resale for approximately $16 million. This year, the village received an appraisal report on the value of that land. And what we did, we had to record it at the lower of cost or market. And so the $6.7 million that's shown as a special item is essentially the village's investment in that property. So that's separately disclosed below the line on the current year financial statements. One other item to point out on page 26 of your financial statements is the surplus in the general fund. If you look at the excess of revenues over expenditures in the first column on page 26, you can see that revenues exceeded expenditures by about $2.7 million in 2013. In the previous years, it was a deficit of $1.1 million. In 2011, it was a deficit of $181,000. So you can see the general fund has a strong surplus this year.
And overall, the fund balance increased from $6 million to approximately $11 million based on the results in the current year. So you've been increased the funding on the pensions that impacted the pension obligation that's recorded, that reduced that a little bit, as well as increase in the general fund balances.
In the recent upgrade that we received from S&P, the 2 points that they made was the increase in the fund balance and the board's commitment to funding on an increased basis pensions as the reason for the upgrade.
So the advice that we've been giving is working?
It has been, yes.
Yeah.
As evident by the recent upgrade.
And the pensions were funded more than $1 million more than.
That's correct. Through
Yeah.
June, we've funded about $3.5 million into the pension
Good.
funds.
Okay, so now just a brief mention of the rest of the financial report. Pages 36 through 75 are notes to the financial statements, so that's just further description of the significant accounting policies of the villages and additional information. Pages 76 through 92 are required supplementary information. There's a lot of good information in that required supplementary information. There's budget to actual schedules for your general fund. Your pension disclosures are also in the required supplementary information. Pages 93 through 132 are supplemental information, which is additional schedules for your non-major funds and your debt service schedules and additional information. And pages 133 through 168 are your statistical schedules. So that's additional information that's included in your comprehensive annual financial report, financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, demographic information, and other information. So that is all for the CAFR. Any specific questions?
I do have a question.
Trustee Linichek.
It states that the village does have $5.1 million in restricted funds earmarked for infrastructure improvement to the village's alleys, sanitary sewers, streets, water mains, and that figure decreased from $12.7 million in 2012 as a result of spending on infrastructure improvements. Is that over just 1 year, or was that over about 2 or 3 years? Because it comes out that $7.6 million would have been spent in 1 year.
Yeah, that's 1 year. That's 1 year.
That would be the current year.
That would be the change from where we were at 12/31/12 to 12/31/13.
And then we have another $5.1 million in restricted. That means it can't be used for anything else.
It's restricted
Correct.
for that purpose.
That's correct. That's why it's in a that particular pool of money, Alex, has always been tracked in a
That
separate.
was from the 3 cent per gallon fuel tax.
Well, that was to fund it. The 3 cents gallon was to fund the debt, but that was from that Build America bond offering that we did in August 2010, and now you're seeing the remnants of that, which is in a separate fund.
$7.6 million don't buy what it used to.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
The one schedule Katie just pointed out in the back of the book, one of the schedules that I spent a lot of time going through with our treasurer is pages 141 and 142, and you'll see on that it kind of gives you an overview of the revenues and the expenditures for the village as a whole. Still showing with all of our debt service and everything else that we've got about an $8 to $9 million deficit. So in other words, what Katie was referring to in the surplus, that's the fund financials. So those monthly schedules that I give the board, that kind of shows, the ins and outs of our police, fire, public works, all the services we provide the village, but it does not include things like debt service and all the other expenditures the village has. You really see that on pages 141 and 142.
Thank you.
The last item we're going to cover quickly is the report to, the other deliverables we had was one item was a report to the board, and the other items were the TIF reports. So we issued 5 TIF reports auditing the transactions of those TIFs. We didn't have any compliance findings or any issues with the TIF audits that we did, but we did not have a single audit this year as well. We were under the threshold. So usually we'll have a single audit. Historically, we've had single audits where we test the federal dollars that the village is expending over certain programs. We didn't have one of those this year. But I want to cover real quickly the board report. It's just required communications that we make to the board. Regarding our responsibilities with the financial statements, we communicated those in our arrangement letter in January of 2014. The overall planned scope and timing of the engagement was separately communicated in a letter with the arrangement letter. Overall accounting policies and practices, management has the responsibility for all accounting policies and practices. We point out in this letter the couple items that Katie mentioned regarding the property tax recognition on the government-wide financial statements, that policy change, as well as the implementation of GASB 65 and the classifications on your fund government-wide financial statements, and the impact of that being the bond issuance costs that were previously capitalized or were expensed. If there are any significant or unusual transactions, we disclose those to you. Management judgment and accounting estimates, all financial statements have estimates and require management judgment. We list out the required, the significant estimates that we determined within their financial statements on pages 3. Basically, the pension and other post-employment benefit obligations we talked about, claims payable for the self-insurance is an estimate, and then land held for resale, that actuarial evaluation. So what we do is for each of those significant estimates, we obtain the underlying documents, whether it's the actuarial report, the third-party administrator report on the claims payable, and then the actuarial report on the land held for resale. And we look at that for reasonableness as far as the assumptions that were used. We didn't have any issues with the estimates that management used. Audit adjustments, there were audit adjustments. Those are disclosed within the report as well in Exhibit B. We had 8 adjustments this year compared to, I believe, 14 in the prior year. If there's unrecorded adjustments, any adjustments that we agree that we're not going to post, those are disclosed in this report as well. The only impact, we did not have any current year unrecorded or past adjustments. We had just had the impact from the previous years that rolled through the current year. If we had any disagreements with management, we disclosed those here to you tonight. We did not. If there were consultations with other accountants, we discussed that as well. We're not aware of any. Significant issues discussed with management. We did discuss the one item that Katie referred to, the special item in your financials related to the appraisal report and the TIF 111th and Cicero Avenue TIF valuation. Significant difficulties, we did not have any. And then we also issued 2 letters, the letter communicating internal control deficiencies as well as management suggestions for improvement. Those are attached to the letters, 2 separate letters as well. So all those are in your report to the board. Again, those are required communications, so we want to make sure we go through those. And that concludes our points to discuss. Any questions for us?
Any questions? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'd like a motion to accept this audit presentation.
So moved.
Properly moved by Trustee Olenichik, seconded by Trustee Carberry. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Olenichik?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
And the audit is on the website, so if residents, if they want a hard copy, they can certainly contact.
Okay, so they could go to the website.
They can go to the
and look at
website to
that.
access the CAFR, but if they want a hard copy, they just need to call my office.
Okay, very good. And you would call the office of Brian Hannigan, our finance director.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Item 10 on our agenda is conflict of interest disclosure. Does anyone on the board have a conflict to disclose with any item on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we're going to move on to item 11. This is approval of meeting minutes of the special meeting minutes 2014-22, dated August 12th, 2014. May I have a motion, please, on item 11?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Vorder.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Desmond. Any discussion here? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Olenichik?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 12 on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes for the regular meeting minutes, 2014-23, dated August 12, 2014. May I have a motion? Properly
Motion.
moved by trustee Desmond.
Motion to approve.
And may I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Quinlan. Any discussion here? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan? Yes. Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
New business by village trustees is item 13 on tonight's agenda. We're going to start in District 1. What's new, trustee Desmond?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to hear you talking about the flooding, the recent flooding. Parts of District 1 were badly affected. I was on 87th Street with water flowing across over to the Oak Lawn side. The Malvina ditch, as we know, backed up onto residents in over 9,700 blocks of Rutherford and Nottingham. 25 years ago, my basement would flood when it rained. 2 weeks ago, a different part of Oak Lawn, different house, it's still flooding. I think that, previous administrations have lost a great opportunity to do something about this flooding. If they were proactive back then, some of these people would have not lost everything. I think, like a lot of other issues, it's up to this administration to tackle this head on. I know our engineering department has been working closely with MWRD on this, and I hope we can hear more about this in the village manager's report. To Fall in the Green, another fantastic festival. Despite rain on Friday night, revenues were still up 5% over last year, and a record crowd showed up on Saturday to enjoy glorious sunshine and be entertained by great music. A big shout out to the hundreds of volunteers who worked to make it a success. We had volunteers from all over the village, family and friends, our village staff and employees, people from Public Works, the Water Department, Finance Department, St. Linus Athletic Club, Park Lawn, St. Catherine's Men Clubs, other schools and neighbourhood groups, Police Department, Fire Department on hand, and also a big thank you to the Special Events Committee and its members and family members. I would also like to thank all the residents who came out to the last District 1 Neighbourhood Watch meeting, and I would especially like to thank the Police Tactical Unit, who gave a very informative and entertaining presentation, which was greatly appreciated by the residents. Tom Simon also did a great job of answering residents' questions and was very patient and understanding of residents' concerns. I also invited Mike Tillman from Norcom to attend the meeting and address any concerns neighbourhood residents may have, and he also did a great job of answering any questions. And finally, I want to thank Attorney Lauren Glennon for being available to help people with appealing their property taxes. All in all, a great meeting and a great testament to how village staff and residents can come together to address concerns in open and thoughtful debate and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. And trustee Oliniechek, District 2.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I appreciate having some time to talk about the flooding that went on in District 2. And to give a little bit of a history, I've been a trustee since 2005. My first meeting being involved in the village, I was surprised that our village didn't have a infrastructure improvement plan. We worked from 2005 to 2007 to put together our village infrastructure improvement plan, and then we started to enact our village infrastructure improvement plan. The sad thing is that in the village of Oak Lawn, to decrease or eliminate flooding, there's only two things that we can do. We can, number one, increase our retention, or number two, increase our ability to get water down to Stony Creek so it goes off into the canal and it's out of our areas. I will tell you that Metropolitan Water Reclamation District did work with us back in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, and up to now. One of the projects that was brought up was the flow of the water out of Malvina Ditch. As we all know, Burbank took a beating with the water that hit them in the Malvina, or the retention that's off of 87th Street. How does that directly affect the village of Oak Lawn? That water directly out of that retention ditch gets pumped all the way down Melvina Ditch, all the way to Stony Creek, and it's pressurized and it's powered with turbines. When that water's coming into Stony Creek, it comes at an angle. Stony Creek with Oak Lawn water flowing from east to west, it hits us. I said that there's two ways for us to eliminate the backup and flooding of water. Well, water flow is directly affected by when that pump is on. At the time that the model was done by MWRD, they deemed that program wasn't necessary. So I'm glad to hear that when we talked to the MWRD commissioners, they now have put that program back onto the front runner. The second thing with Stony Creek, MWRD did partner with the Village of Oak Lawn, and they did remove a whole bunch of trash and debris to increase our ability for water to move through Stony Creek. But in 1976, when I was 10 years old, I remember well, when we got hit with as much rain as we got hit with, I was coming home with my parents down Central from being away, and Central Avenue had a foot of water from basically where Stony Creek was all the way to 91st and Major where I lived. And at the house that I lived in, it was so far underwater that people were taking boats up and down 91st Street. That obviously didn't happen this time, but some of the residents and some of my neighbors asked, what happened from 1976 to now where water's hitting areas that it didn't hit before? And I'll tell you quite honestly, we have no retention. We have done a horrible job in this village of planning for water retention and the ability to move water away. So I too agree with Trustee Desmond and the trustees on this board that we need to continue to work towards that. Now you heard earlier that we spent $7.6 million on our infrastructure, and we've done some very good things of upgrading an antiquated old system. And I've got pictures of pipes that were cracked and not working properly that we slip lined. What does that mean to the resident? Well, when you have water infiltrating in pipes, you have water infiltrating out of pipes. Those issues put a strain on our sanitary system. When our sanitary system is charged and our water going out to the creeks are charged, water seeks its point of least resistance. We need to put together progressive programs in the neighborhoods that we're having problems with, where people can use overhead sewers. We need to be able to find funding, whether it's state or federal. We need to come up with solutions on how we can enact more of these programs quickly. The problem comes down to we're catching up. We are behind. We take a look at our streets, and we talked about it in our public works program, that we just got our head above water, and I bet you every resident that's here can name 1 to 2 streets that they would like to see looking better. Well, just imagine how those streets look. You're not seeing what the liabilities underground are, and we have a lot of them. And we need to be able to figure out how we're going to attack that progressively and start from our biggest issue. And I know that there's been some positive movement in your neighborhood, Carol, with the 111th Street project that we've got fully funded, and that's going to help give us some more of that retention and get water out of the village of Oak Lawn. But to sit here and point fingers saying that any one of us doesn't care about this village, I don't think that that's productive. I don't think that's right. We owe it to the residents, and we owe it to each other to continue to work for the solutions. We are behind. We need to continue to work to get ahead. I will tell you that our sanitary system, we've come a long way, but we're nowhere where we need to be. Our storm system, we need to continue to work with MWRD because they're going to give us the longest solution. And one of the things that this board is working about retention is over on the east side of town, being able to build enough retention. Because a lot of people don't remember that a lot of the water flow in the village of Oak Lawn back in the 70s and 80s was open. So when it overflowed into the trailer park that was right here, in which we would have 6 or 7 feet of water. Now you have cement surrounding it, so it's pressurizing it. It's pushing it back underneath the streets out towards Oak Lawn Lake and out towards Stony Creek. We need to be realistic that this village needs to work on retention, and I think that the retention that MWRD now has as a point of interest with the cemetery, I think that that's an excellent way for us to look at that. I will also tell you that we take a lot of water in from the other suburbs coming from the east going through here. It's just the way that the water flows. So when we have record rainfall, it is tough to see residents that are getting hit with rain and losing carpeting and couches and the things that they have to go through. And we're doing, obviously, not enough to do it, what we need to get done, but we're doing with what we have available. And I think that, the excuses should stop. We know that we have these problems. And weather says tonight we're supposed to get hit with another rainstorm that's supposed to give us, again, the 25 or the 50-year flood. Since I've been elected, I don't know what it is, but we've been hit with the 50-year flood at least 5 or 6 times. And we need to be able to come up with a solution to be able to handle that type of rain. So we'll continue to work with MWRD. I do not have an issue with meeting. I've met with many neighbors and the residents that have had issues in the 2nd District. I know that we talked about building retention underneath parks. But again, the financials of that, like Brant Park, was the financial numbers that the project needed to have were not there. I think we need to hit our federal government and come into those areas that we're having issues with and look for more federal funding, because this is real. It's not going away, and we need to continue to work on that. I'm working for solutions. I'm not looking to pass judgment on people or to say that what we're experiencing now is somebody else's fault. We'll take responsibility for what we need to do moving forward, and I think that this board has addressed it. I think we've put a lot of money. $12 million just doesn't buy what it used to be, and it's kind of sick that $12 million isn't enough. I think when we figured it out, Brian, what did we need for all the infrastructure to really do the things that we know we need to do?
I think we raised 33.5, and I think we needed more like 75 to 80.
That's correct. So we'll continue to work on that. I wanted to remind everybody about the 6th annual Sully Shuffle. Skip Sullivan was a resident of Oak Lawn, still is. He was a baseball player, football player, and a coach at Oak Lawn High School. We're having the 6th annual Sully Shuffle held on September 14th to raise money for Parkinson's disease research. The Sully Shuffle is named after Skip Sullivan, a retired teacher, coach, and mentor, an active member of the community. Skip has been fighting Parkinson's disease for more than the last 10 years. His positive attitude and eternal optimism inspired this fundraiser. In his first 5 years, the Sully Shuffle has raised $115,000 for American Parkinson's Disease Midwest Chapter, which is dedicated to funding Parkinson's disease research. The 5K run and the 3K walk courses begin and end at Oak Lawn Community High School and wind their way through one of the most beautiful parts of Oak Lawn, 2nd District. I put that in there. The post-party is held at the Homestead Bar with food, drinks, and raffles, so I could ask you to come out and help make the 6th-year most successful Sully Shuffle yet and join the fun this weekend, September 14th. Just want to congratulate the Park District. I was not able to make the Park District grand opening of the Commissioners Park, but it's a very beautiful park that's located at 52nd Avenue and 89th Street. September 8th, yesterday, the ribbon cutting ceremony took place at 5:30. The park has a cascading waterfall feature, walking path, floral gardens, sculptured art wall, and a wide variety of shade trees, which is really a nice addition to the neighborhood. I want to commend Commissioners McCauley, Callahan, Murphy, Anderson, and Wallace, and the Village Park District for putting together a nice park like that in District 2. And then finally, I want to thank all of the staff who worked very, very hard at the Fall in the Green to make it a very nice event. I know a couple of issues, but nothing major. And I can tell you that anyone that I spoke to was very complimentary of the bands and the time that they were able to spend with their family. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And that Commissioner Park is really something. It's not a playground. It's not where you might expect to take kids and have them have equipment to play on. It's really a park adults will enjoy. I could imagine older adults walking it. Very, very, very lovely. So thank you. And District 3, Trustee Straight.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I guess, first of all, I find myself in the unusual position of agreeing with Trustee Olenichek 2 meetings in a row.
So, you get a hug?
Shocking. No hug.
No hug?
No hug.
Keep your hands up.
Yeah. So, he did say that we shouldn't be pointing fingers at each other and blaming. And I was disappointed. I think that's a reference to Trustee Desmond's comments about previous administrations have missed the opportunity to solve the flooding issues. The manager that he follows so religiously, his advice, has sat here for 7 years and has been a part of all these issues that he's going to talk about under his report, whether it be Melvina Ditch or whether it be the St. Casimir Detention Center or, quite frankly, any of these issues. I remember in 1991 that Army Corps of Engineers spent $190,000 studying that point that has been discussed about the confluence of Malvina Ditch and Stony Creek.
And since 1991.
Absolutely, and actually, there were plans, extensive plans, to straighten that out, that the land was available. I don't know if it still is, but quite frankly, the MWRD, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, declined to pursue that project at the time. I recall sitting in a meeting with the manager and the clerk, the former mayor, and some other officials, a number of other officials, in a meeting at St. Casimir Cemetery with the director of the Catholic Cemeteries, who is a huge decision maker in what happens in that cemetery, in all the cemeteries for that matter. Very powerful man, and quite frankly, he had a lot of meetings with the manager, and he just simply would refuse to deal with him. This man refused to deal with the manager because they had, extensive conflicts between them. So we can, and I actually don't want. I think it's important that we, since Trustee Desmond, said we can blame previous administrations. There's really, I think when the people on this board ran a year ago, they said that they have ideas and that they're going to change things. They're going to take, and quite frankly, we can sit there and blame people in the past. That's something, we see that with national political leaders, we see it at the state level, and it's really unacceptable. There's people that have been sitting here for a number of years, certainly everybody else for a year.
Decades also.
Pardon?
Decades as well.
Decades as well, absolutely. That's right. I have a lot of experience. And you know what? The first thing that the mayor did when she was elected was to remove me from the Public Works Committee, the person that had the most experience. So, and that's really, I could talk about that at length, but really the idea is we want to talk about solutions. And I think, but I do see a lot of angling, and we're talking about pensions, and and there is this there's this idea that let's try to say we're different and we're better, and the truth of it is there's a lot more to it, and I could certainly get into that, but that's another lengthy discussion, and I didn't really engage the auditor for that same reason. We'll be engaging on those issues in the future, but. The manager, as I said, he's going to be talking about solutions, and hopefully some of these ideas that have been talked about, by the way, for years and years, really will provide help to the residents who so desperately need that. That's really the real objective. But as I said, we've been hearing these solutions for many years, and the truth of the matter, the real truth of the matter is that. This board has wasted millions of dollars on giveaways to developers and to utility companies and on multi-million dollar no-bid contracts. So, and the village is quick to blame the homeowners and give them citations when their grass grows more than 4 inches, or if they have peeling paint on their gutters or their fascia. But who cites the village for failing in one of its most basic responsibilities? And that's to ensure that your sanitary water flows out of your house as opposed to backing up in your house. Trustee Olenichek, as chairman of the Public Works Committee, has sat here, you've all heard him, he's ranted for years about ComEd's infrastructure. But where is his outrage about the infrastructure here in the village of Oak Lawn? I know he did say that he wants to put up his sleeves and work together, but that's really not what we're doing, quite frankly. And I can tell you, again, I don't want to be political about it. I don't want to get into that, but I could because, quite frankly, there is a lot of the let's blame Bob Strite or let's blame the previous mayor, and that doesn't solve anything.
I haven't heard any of that tonight, sir.
You pardon?
I haven't heard any of that tonight.
Well, you heard it from Trustee Desmond. He said He said previous administrations did not, they missed opportunities.
Okay.
Okay, he was blaming,
I
intentionally
didn't hear him
blaming.
say Trustee Straight was responsible.
Well, you know what? How about this? Your candidate put out literature saying that flooding is worse today than ever because of me. How about
I'm not
how about
running
you
for
taking
elected office, or
responsibility?
I don't
How
have
about
any
you
candidacy.
taking responsibility instead of blaming me, Mayor? You want to say that you didn't hear any of that? You said it. You've
Trustee
said
Straight?
it. Your candidate said it.
Trustee Straight?
Yes.
I like to conduct these, I like to think of us as ladies and gentlemen taking care of ladies and gentlemen, and shouting at the board table demeans your office, and it's not necessary.
Well, you know what? And conducting the meetings
I'm
the
going
way
to
that
ask
you
you to
usually do
please
demeans
behave
yours
in
as well. Okay.
in a manner
That's-
that suits a gentleman who's been in service to his community for decades. Thank you.
Well, and I'll tell you what, if I didn't have to read the kind of crap that you put out and listen to the dog and pony show that you create, that you
Please,
conduct,
will the
then
audience-
I wouldn't feel compelled to say what I have to say. I'd rather.
Can you get on with what you're saying, sir?
I can.
Thank you.
I can, absolutely. So, and I really, actually, I did not plan on addressing the 911 center this evening either.
Oh, that's why you
But-
have a pre-written document.
But, well, I'll tell you, the reason
Is
that
that
I
a
plan,
script? No.
the reason that I'm going to do, you know what, Mayor, that's really cute. So you want to talk about what I do, but then you want to sit there and make snide remarks. So very professional on your
Yes,
part.
sir.
Yes. So while I have stated, and I believe that a public hearing should be held on the problems related to the outsourced 911 service. As I said, I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight, but I
Can
did.
you turn your script
Yeah,
over
well,
and talk
yeah.
off the cuff?
Yeah, I surely can.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Absolutely. And if you'll stop interrupting me, then maybe we could have a cordial meeting. So, but I did notice, first of all, what really compelled me to say something is you have a resident here who has been repeatedly requesting information about our 911 service. And she has been repeatedly stonewalled on receiving that information. And that's why it's so frustrating to me, because I know exactly how she feels, because you do it to me every day of the week, all right? I request basic information. I requested, and by the way, I request information as a trustee. I should be given that information, and so should you. But you're not. You're not given that information. If you're asking for important information like Nancy Ficcaro's asking, you're not going to get it because they don't want you to see it. All right? They don't want the truth to be told about what's really going on here in the village. So at a recent meeting, I just simply asked for for an independent audit of the 911 service. We outsource the service, one of our basic primary functions to provide
right here.
public
It's
safety.
right here.
Yeah, it
It's
surely
not
is.
outsourced.
Yeah,
It's right here behind us.
It sure, and that's okay. You can interrupt me, trustee. That's fine. But so it is right here. The outsourced service is right here behind. He's right about that. He knows where it is. Thank God. So, so I asked for that. Now, it's really a basic. All the information that is compiled. And I'm going off script, Mayor. So, enjoy this. All the information is compiled on every single 911 call by our software. The time when the call comes in, from the time it comes in, that's recorded. The call is recorded. The time it's dispatched is recorded. All that information, it's information that we gather, we collect, but when we want it, we can't see it. You can't have it, okay? And so, as I said, I asked for that audit. The mayor arbitrarily rejected the request, even though she has received numerous requests that I'm aware of. There's a lot of residents, besides Nancy Ficcaro, who have been asking for information that would be contained in the results of that audit. Official reports are maintained by the Village of Oaklawn, and they're supposed to be accessible to me, to Trustee Quinlan, to other trustees. And by the way, I'll take this opportunity to point this out, that let's see, it's August, I forget exactly when it was, but Trustee Quinlan and I, because we weren't getting information, the mayor, by the way, she always sends me an email, please tell me what you're talking, please tell me what these complaints are, who these people are. But you know what? I asked for information about emails between the manager and the attorney a year ago, and I still don't have them. They won't turn them over. Trustee Quinlan has asked for those similar. They won't turn them over to her either. I know former Mayor Heilman, when he was in office, asked for that information, and I could tell you that this guy sitting here, the manager, directed the IT director not to turn them over, not to provide them public records to public officials. And you think if they won't turn them over to me, they're going to turn anything over to you? You know, absolutely not. Just really, so I recently absolutely happened, for a fact, and I can go a lot deeper than that if I need to, and I will. So I recently I requested the roster of Norcom employees, because, by the way, we said we're keeping 5 of our managerial staff and they're going to manage the new Norcom employees. So, you know, we're managing them. I requested a roster of the staff on January 27th of this year, and then I requested a roster of August 27th of this year. And you know what I was told back? The response I got back? We don't have that information. All right? We don't have the information of the people that work in that room that Trustee Desmond is referring to. So, you know, and there's a reason that I asked for that. I know that we've had high turnover. I wanted to see, quite frankly, who these people are. Who are these supervisors? I've heard that at least 3 of the 5, and I've heard that, so I could be wrong, okay, I acknowledge that. The 3 of the 5 have already left us, okay? But I've heard a lot of things, and Mayor, if you dare ask me to tell you what they are, I'm going to tell you, okay, right here in front of everybody. So, and I'd be happy to, but it'll take a long time. It'll take a long time. So, but, you know, so I also requested the intergovernmental, so correspondence between village staff and officials and about the dispatch problems. Because, by the way, all right, I talk to a lot of people in this town, not just these people up here who don't want to respond, but I talk to a lot of our employees. And I've heard some very clearly that there are complaints that are actually issued almost on a daily basis. So I asked for, you know, that correspondence, because I have a right to see it. I have a right. You have a right for me to tell you what's going on, what the problems are. But you know what? Okay, I got back, and this is typical, I got back a couple of emails. It's a disgrace. What I got from this village, and it happens all the time. I could show you files full of FOIA requests that the village simply doesn't really, they have a process. It's a several-step process. The first thing they do, by the way, is they ask for an extension, all right? And then after they ask for the extension, they will have the attorney, generally, by the way, that's one of the reasons our legal bills are so high. And rather than having FOIA officers, you know, thanks for interrupting me again, Mayor. And by the way, if you put it on, why don't you put it online and make it accessible to everybody? It should be. It's not your private information. Not up to you what information that we have. By the way, I should remind you, you ran on a platform called Ethics and Transparency, okay? You probably forgot about that. So, as I said, when the response that I received is not only is it an insult to me, but it's an insult to every single resident of our community. I shouldn't have to FOIA records. Right? I should be those records should be turned over to me. But when Carol Quinlan and I brought that ordinance, let's turn over the same records that the mayor has and the manager has. This board voted not to turn them over, by the way, and the mayor cast the deciding vote. Do not turn those records over to those officials. So just a little reminder about how transparent we actually are around here. So, you know, public safety is our #1 priority, and response times are up. That's what they don't want you to know. Response times are up. I said it, okay? You know, because nobody wants to address that. Nobody wants to hear that. Because when it comes down to it, when you make that call.
What are you
when
basing that on, Trustee Straight?
Well, okay, and I'll say it again. Good. I'm just glad you asked that. Why don't
All I
you?
hear is fear and gossip, sir.
Why don't
I
you
want
turn
facts.
over the records and then we can put the fear and gossip
When
to
you say
rest, Mayor.
response time is up, and
Yeah,
I know
I
that
did
for
say
a
that.
fact,
I
can you
did
tell me
say
what
that.
you're basing that on?
Well, I'll tell you what. I've heard it from first responders, okay?
Okay.
And I trust them a lot more than I
need you to
trust
give me
I trust
facts.
them a lot more than I trust
you
because,
tell me their
because you don't
names?
turn over the record. And I don't
The
have to tell you
dates?
their names. So you
The
can put them on the
specific
hit list
instances?
so you can fire them? Is that why you want me to tell you their names?
Trustee
Okay.
Straight, we
Come on.
endured,
You know what? You're
as a
compromising.
village.
You know what? But Mayor, why are you interrupting? You said
As a village,
you
we
just
have
got done
endured
saying,
witch
I want to
hunts,
conduct a
contrived
meeting.
scandals. Do you remember the fall on the green audit,
Contrived
Trustee Straight?
Yeah,
the village
very
spent
real. $10,000 in missing funds. It's in the
25.
read
The only thing
audit,
missing
Mayor.
was the booze, sir.
Read
and we
the
know where
audit,
that
Mayor.
went.
I'm sure you've never taken the time to read it, okay?
Anybody
I
that would
don't-
like a copy of the audit, it's right here. It shows nothing missing. It's another falsity of Bob Strike.
Absolutely not
Can you
false.
show me the part in there where it says it, Trustee Straight?
Okay.
Show it the page.
Okay, I will. All right.
And while you're
It
looking
is
it
in
up,
here. Yeah, I can too.
You cannot.
All right. You know what? First of all, I don't think it's appropriate.
could you show us, sir?
I'll be happy. I'll show the. How about this? I'll post it online for everybody to see. Okay.
I'm fine with that, but can you show us now? Because this is our board
You know what?
meeting.
First of all, I'm in the middle of a report. Okay.
Okay,
This is
well,
my,
you're saying
this
things
is
I
my
want
new
you.
business.
You
and
can't
you're-
substantiate anything you're saying. I
it's-
want that. I demand that.
Yeah, you demand a lot of things. And I'll tell you what, I demand a lot of things too. How about turning over the records?
Here's the
okay?
report. That
How
you're
about
saying that there were $10,000
Okay.
missing from allegations against me.
Yeah, that's
Nothing
right.
is
It's
written
in
in there.
It surely is.
Trustee Straight, I'm going to ask you to wind up your report.
Okay, all right. And all I'm saying really simply is, I'm sorry that I have to engage so passionately about these issues, but they're important to me, and I think they're important to the people of our community too. I know they are. So what I'm going to just urge you to do is, the mayor will not hold a public hearing. She's flat out said that. She doesn't believe there's no audit needed, there's no public hearing needed, because all that information that's readily available, and Nancy Ficarro could have talked for a lot longer than 3 minutes, because she knows a lot about what's going on here. That information is those are public records that they're going to do everything they can to stop you from seeing. Probably it's going to take, when somebody calls 911 and they ask, can you please give us your address 5 times? And they ask them, when they give it to them, they say, what town is that in? And they delay it, and then they put them on hold.
Tell me
and then
when
they
those happen,
dispatch.
Trustee
Yeah,
Straight?
I can tell you it's happened. Thank you. I can tell you that it has happened. Okay?
Trustee
You don't
Straight,
want her to answer, right?
You can hold a meeting anytime you want.
Yeah,
they're called
you're
district
right. And I'm
meetings,
probably going to have to
community
resort
meetings.
to that.
Community
Right.
and
You might
district
have to.
meetings. I've had many of them.
Right.
You should try
Probably-
them.
And to speak to your concerns, Trustee Straight, we've
Okay.
tentatively set a few tours of the center. We're looking at November, the Friday and Saturday, I think November 21st and 22nd, that any resident can come and tour the facility, ask questions. It will not be the witch hunt you envision. With
It'll
no
be the
control,
dog and
but
pony show. That's what it'll be, just
It
like
will
most
be-
of these meetings are.
it will
You know
be-
what? You're going to sit here and it's a little song and dance. No, it's not going to be. You're not. You know why? You're not going to provide them the information that they deserve.
Trustee Straight, I just had a meeting, and I invited Mike Tillman from Norcom to attend the meeting.
Yeah,
and he
I
could
know.
answer
I
any
know
questions.
About it. Right? Yeah.
No, you don't know about
No,
it.
and no. Did you tell
Trustee
anybody who was
Desmond,
gonna
that's a
be there?
great
Yes, I did.
idea.
I told Bob Racco from the Reporter newspaper.
Yeah.
So anyone that wanted to
My
attend it.
meetings have been posted too.
All right.
I
Well,
didn't-
you know,
I-
then again, I mean, I think
Meetings are posted
this
all
is
the time.
Yeah. How many meetings have you had this year, sir?
You know what, Mayor? First of all, I've been more contact with my constituents than
Well,
any
you should. I mean, you're
trustee that
charging
sits
him
at this
$1,000 a
board,
month for your
okay?
office.
So, you know what?
You're
Okay.
charging him $1,000 a month for your office. You should have more contact
Mayor,
with him.
is this,
Trustee Desmond.
Come on,
this is a
This
report.
is-
Everyone except Bob Straight is out of line. This is his report. Let him finish. No one should be making a comment right now.
Okay,
He
Trustee
should be
Straight, are you
finishing his
finished?
report.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
All right, but I will
Let's
wrap it up. I'll
Thank
wrap
you.
it up, and
Thank
you
you.
know, I would just urge, the residents who I know that there's a lot more of you out there than Nancy Ficarro, but God bless her for being willing to take a stand. Her story would chill your spine.
What was that
Because
story?
it does mine. Well, you're going to hear it. You'll let her tell it one day. It's going to come out, all right? But there's a lot of people have those stories to tell. And what I would say is, why don't we look at the actual records? Let us see the records, all right? And let's have that independent audit. And then you can decide for yourselves. Call the mayor, call your trustee, and tell them you want the truth about 911. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Mayor,
Trustee.
since my name was brought up on one thing, I'd like
Certainly,
to.
Trustee Oliniechek.
Trustee Strite, thank you for giving me the credit about going after ComEd. You are 100% correct, and I'll continue to go after them. But one of the things that you said falsely is that I've not been going after the water issues in 2nd District. Since 2005, I can give you proof, and actually you're part of my proof, and so is Trustee Quinlan, that in the last 3 years complained about the amount of funding that 2nd District was getting for the total amount of infrastructure improvement, which directly goes for the flooding issues that we've had in 2nd District. I did a little bit of math. Since 1991, you've been a trustee. From 1991 to 2005, 14 years was a huge amount of time that infrastructure, based off of everything you have and everything that was given to us, had not been taken care of. We did one street at a time, and we did one parcel, whether it was a mile, of infrastructure improvement at a time, correct? It's either yes or no.
We did a mile of a street a year. Okay. By the way,
No,
it's well, you let me respond.
Okay,
The
okay.
beloved Mayor Ernie Kolb was our mayor at the time. Okay, and
You
I'm
still
a trustee.
sat on this board.
Right.
You did not
Okay.
do anything to
No,
move
that's not
forward with
true.
the infrastructure.
By
Bring the
the way,
documentation.
I didn't get on the Public
Okay.
Works Committee for all those early years.
One at a time.
But I'm
There's
just
always-
stating that the
Trustee
fact
Oliniechek,
is,
I
Please
do everything I
continue.
can
All right, but-
I can to help my
but-
residents, and they'll tell you that.
But
okay, but I
Trustee-
can't do
Trustee
it
Strite, you made a
without
comment.
working together.
Trustee
Trustee
Let
Strite,
Olini-
you made a comment that I did not do anything for the residents of the 2nd District on
not say
flooding.
that.
You said that I had
Absolutely.
not worked hard for them like I've worked
I
hard
did
on
not.
ComEd.
No, I did not say that.
Okay,
No.
well, I just want to make sure, because I don't have a diatribe called, whatever it's called, that can go out there and give my message of the story. But you talked about lies and maliciousness, and since you brought up an audit, I want to bring up another one of your schemes. Remember Alleygate? That's when an alley, I think it was alley 13 and 14 in 2nd District, misuse of public funds that wasn't appropriated. It's what you said.
Because it was.
Now, that was working for the residents of 2nd District with public funds.
Okay. It was a
That was a
Trustee
project.
Oliniechek, keep
There
it-
there
keep
was
your
an
comments
audit that
brief,
was done
please.
there
It
and
was
found.
done illegally.
Okay, but your audits, again, are witch hunts. It was done according to what we had money for, and there was nothing illegally done there.
Okay.
You're following the green audit. You make allegations here, and I ask you in front of the Village of Oak Lawn to provide what page and where it's at that we had. It says we have $10,000 that's missing.
What it says is that there are over $10,000 in things of value
Show me
that
the
are
page.
unaccounted for.
Show me the
Okay,
page
I
and the
will.
sentence.
I tell you what. You know what? You see this? It's in here. Okay, I'm not gonna. If you want, I'll tell
It's
you what. Can I
fact-based.
sit here and I'll pull it out? When I pull it out, if I can have this through the meeting while I'm listening to all your other dog and pony
I
show,
have no
I'll
problem.
find it and I'll show you.
Robert,
okay?
I have
All
no
right.
problem with
Okay,
giving
great.
you my
Thank
personal
you.
notes and my personal
Great.
information.
Then we're good.
But another thing, in your years of being on the Public Works Committee, you took over $100,000 in campaign contributions in your fundraisers from people, engineers and lawyers that work directly in concert with that. Yet I don't see anything in the notes that talks about moving forward on any of the projects and the obstacles that need to be brought down to move forward with it. I'm sorry, but you brought up the fact that you thought I was too hard on ComEd and I wasn't hard enough on for the residents of the Village of Oak Lawn, and I think the proof is just the opposite, Mr. Strite. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Oliniechek. Clerk Quinlan, you just had a comment.
Right, I remember that cemetery meeting so well. We were over at St. Cashmere.
Okay.
And I'm not sure you were originally invited. Remember, you came kind of late, and they were hesitant to get a chair for you. And we were actually embarrassed because we were trying to get you in that meeting. And sure, Roman and Larry had met several times, and Larry worked very diligently to try to get that detention over at St. Cashmere. And we actually invited one of our county commissioners. And I have to say, and Dave Heilman, the mayor at the time, did a very nice job talking to Roman.
Right.
Larry, was that the truth? And I remember he really tried. We all did. We talked about he talked about the room in the cemeteries. You know, St. Cashmere was just, you know, there's still some room. And I wanted to bring up, well, maybe there would be with cremations, but I didn't. But that was one of the worst meetings I've ever witnessed in my life. And the county commissioner came up to me and he agreed. And I apologized to him because it was such a horrible meeting at the time. Now we have a much better relationship now, but that's the truth, Trustee Strite. And you do remember that.
And what I described as what you're right, it was a horrible meeting between who?
No, but it wasn't
between
a horrible
who?
meeting. No, we were treated very
between Larry
poorly.
and
Shouting,
Roman.
we will respect
We
each
were
other.
treated, I have
Why
never
don't you
been
tell the
treated.
truth?
I'm telling the truth.
Tell the whole story then.
That's the whole story.
What was the
Okay,
horrible
we're gonna
meeting?
move
What-
on.
You said it was a
Because
horrible meeting.
We were all treated horribly.
Clerk,
By
Coleman,
who?
And you agreed.
By who?
Thank you for that
You're welcome.
information.
Just to
By
get that
who?
straight.
Terry,
Archdiocese.
Terry, once again, where you get to. I'm gonna start maybe next time going from District 6 this way.
I like that idea.
Okay,
Mary.
Trustee Warder, this is your report.
Thank you. I'd like to weigh in a little bit on this dispatch issue. As the police liaison, I have had many conversations with the chiefs on complaints on the 911 center, and they have assured me over the things that the complaints were minor and that they were handling. But in light of all the controversy that's been brought up in the last couple of months, I remember Ronald Reagan say, "Trust but verify." So I FOIA'd the complaints to the 911 center here, and I have 4 complaints from January to last week, okay, that were investigated by the chiefs of police. All the complaints originated from people within house. These were policemen or firemen that made the complaints. The chiefs have looked at them. Some of them were shared responsibilities on faults. They were all minor, and corrective action has been taken. Now, over the summer, as part of my exercise program, I walk my district. And I knock on people's doors, and I introduce myself, and I ask them, what issues are important to you in the village of Oak Lawn, and how can this town serve you better? I have not received one comment or complaint on the dispatch center out of the 4th district. So if there's all these hundreds of complainants, they're not coming to me, and they're not coming from the 4th district. So.
Yeah, can I respond to that?
Well, no, it's my turn to talk,
Okay.
Trustees,
All right.
right? Okay.
All right, when you're done, if I may.
Well, that'll be up to
If
the
you
mayor.
may, it's
I'm
up to
sure-
me to
I'm
determine,
sure
sir.
of that, right.
Find the $10,000.
I'm looking.
Now, moving on to some better issues, okay, and what a great town we live. I'd like to first off comment on Trustee Olenichek's comments on that Commissioner's Park. When I was a Park District Commissioner 6 years ago, there was a lot of discussion on buying that piece of property. It's about 2 acres of property. Don't remember what we spent on it, but it was before the great property crash, and we probably spent too much money. But I went over there today, and I took a look at that addition to our park system. And I would suggest everybody take a day to go over there, take a walk around, and take a look at that beautiful park. You're going to be proud of the Park District. The Park District, I've always said, is the golden jewel for Oak Lawn. So please do that. And while we're talking on the Park District, here's a couple of things I would like to promote for the Park District Mayor. This Saturday, September 13th, from 1 to 4, at the Bailey's Crossing Dog Park. That's 9910 South Movina. They're going to have an event there, okay, that's going to include vendors selling dog pet supplies and things of that nature. They're going to have some light concessions there. There'll be some contests with the dogs. There'll be some doggy dashes, and there's going to be a dog fashion show. So certainly put that on your calendar if you're free on Saturday. I hope the weather's good. I'm going to try to get there. I have a special thing in my heart for dogs. In fact, I always cremated all my dogs over the year, and I told my wife, when I go, there's only one thing I want in my casket, and those are my dogs. Okay.
Are they going to be alive?
Okay. No, they're cremated. They'll be in there with me. And also, they're going to do a World Day of Play at the park in my district, Sullivan Park. Okay, and that's going to be on September 20th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That park is located at 99th and Costner. It's a free event, as is the dog park issue. There's going to be ball games, dodgeball, kickball, soccer, disc golf, capture the flag, obstacle courses, and building set and construction, as well as the park. It's kind of geared toward the younger children, so if you're free on Saturday the 20th, certainly include that into your agenda. And that's all I have to say, Mayor.
Thank
But
you, Trustee
but I-
Warder. Trustee Quinlan?
Thanks. I actually have a couple items. First, for the Public Works Committee, when talking about how, in the past couple of years, they've been doing Stony Creek, cleaning of the debris and the fallen trees, and they had been doing a great job, but did not see them this year. And I know that they didn't finish Stony Creek over by Long and along Stony Creek Drive, actually. But I am wondering in your meetings, if you don't mind addressing, are they planning on coming out at any point before the winter hits to do more cleanup of the debris?
When I talked to the commissioner at MWRD, that was one of the concerns. I said that coming into winter, we're going to be concerned because of the amount of water flow that we get and debris in there. So they made a commitment to get people out there when available to get that taken care
Okay,
of.
because I actually heard, and I didn't see this, but someone told me that we overflowed onto Central. It was so bad. So that just tells me again, they had been doing a great job, didn't see them this summer, so it'd be very helpful if we could, continue to, those efforts, even if it's a little bit every year, that would be great. So the second thing is, I've talked to Larry about this, I wasn't thrilled about Family Dollar coming to begin with at Central. At the old Sinisi's. And that snow fence is absolutely driving me crazy. The fact that the business license was approved, even temporarily, with that parking lot looking so terrible, and a snow fence. I don't know who puts up a snow fence, but it's up, and now it's partially falling. It is so unacceptable. It is terrible looking. Well, it's not 95th Street or Cicero. That's a big street and a big corner in my district. And it's important to us, especially the residents that live right around the corner from that snow fence. It is just beyond unacceptable. And, Family Dollar's got to get their act together because they're losing even more points with me very quickly. Let's get it addressed. That would be great. On a good note, St. Linus has their Oktoberfest coming back September 19th, 20th, and 21st. On Friday, it's family night from 6 to 9. On Saturday, it's Night of Music, which is September 20th. That's from 5 to 11 p.m. They'll also be honoring the alumni classes of 1964, 74, 84, 94, and 2004. Then also on Saturday, Jack Hogan and the Skylarks and Sean and Charlie will be playing. Then Sunday, it's pancake breakfast from 8 to 12 p.m. It's all you can eat, $5 at the Cardiff Center. Just to let you know, tickets for Saturday night are now on sale. You can purchase the tickets at the Rectory online at www.stlinushoktoberfest.org or after Masses on September 6th, 7th, 13th, and the 14th. And lastly, obviously today is the day Mariano's has finally opened. I can't tell you, yay! How excited I am after so many years. I mean, and the store, we were invited last night for an opening event. It is stunning. I think someone said it is like a grocery adventure, and that is what it is. I think I can get lost in there for several hours. It's great. It is such a wonderful asset to Oak Lawn. I'm so pleased. Obviously I want to thank Bob Mariano, Hamilton Partners, Larry Deachin. And I also want to, besides this board that continued with the effort, most importantly, this vision started, about 10 years ago. Mayor Dave Heilman, before he even ran, that was a big issue for him, is getting this 111th and Cicero development and seeing it through. So it was his vision, and the past board members, every single one, whether, we disagreed and agreed at different times, but that was very important to all of us. And so I thank past board members as well, because it is now happening, and it's a great start to, as we hope, a wonderful development. So thank you again. And that's all. So thank you.
And Carol, I wanted to tell you, I got an email from a friend of mine as you were talking that's there right now, and it's mobbed, absolutely mobbed.
I have heard, my neighbor said, well, we were there before 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
Was it?
No
and
parking.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So.
Madam Mayor, on that same thing, Tim Graybar, who was one of the guys responsible for setting up that store, said that the projected sales first day is record for all of the Mariano's opening. That's how big it is. So
That's awesome. Oaklawn, shop Oaklawn, baby. Yeah, that's good.
Yes, and Bob Mariano's such a class act. Last night he was at the door, shaking everyone's hands, introducing himself. And actually, a neighbor of mine was there last night and said, I have been shopping at Mariano's in this city for the past 5 years. So I know they're real happy that it's now in Oaklawn. But yeah, good stuff.
And what a wonderful, wonderful party last night.
Oh,
So.
and a beautiful store.
Yeah.
So well done.
Trustee Carberry.
Larry, is it true we're not going to be filming the meetings in 2015?
I hope so.
Oh, is that true, or is that a rumor?
I haven't heard that yet, Trustee.
It might be a good idea. Maybe I think people are getting the wrong idea of what we're supposed to do here. I think it's not something to be proud of.
No, they don't want the people at home to see what's going on either. So.
No, they can read it. The people that are here, I
Yeah.
think it's fantastic. They show up. They can read meeting minutes online. But this is a circus, and it's not a team to be proud of.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
it
what.
ain't the people at home that's a concern, it's the people that sit up here that are acting for the camera.
Well,
I think we seem very important. If anyone was in business for themselves, like you are, Bob, it's not a very business-like meeting.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It surely isn't. You're absolutely right. And it starts
I'm
at
not
the
getting
top.
Trustee Straight, please don't interrupt
I'm
him.
not getting in an argument with you on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Trustee
I'm not-
Carberry.
I'm not calling anybody. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm speaking on behalf of all of us. I think we have a responsibility to handle ourselves, all of us, better than this.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Well, hiding behind the podium, I'm going to ask to move. I see a resident who's been patiently sitting through all this. Item 15 and 16 on the agenda relate to the resident behind the podium there. I'd like a motion, please, to move item 15 and 16 up ahead of the village manager's report, just to help get them on their way.
Motion made.
Properly moved by
Second.
Trustee Border, seconded by Trustee Carberry. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to item 15. This is a request to approve the planning and development referral for lot coverage variation and also variation from the impervious surface ordinance to allow the addition, in addition to the house at 10420 South Lamont Avenue, petition number 2014-17. Dan Boyce, Copper Tree Construction is the petitioner in District 5. And then item 16 is an ordinance granting that request or that variance. May I have a motion, please, on items 15 and 16?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Carberry.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Olenichik. Any discussion on these items? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Olenichik?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. We're going to move on to the village manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll keep it brief. I'll leave a couple items off here, and certainly I'll put them in the till for the board if they like, or any residents who want to have an update. Please don't hesitate to call my office. I'd like to springboard off what Trustee Quinlan and Trustee Olenichik and others said, but I'd like to thank the board. There was unanimous attendance on the part of the village board, your mayor, and your trustees on Monday night. And that did not go unnoticed by Mr. Mariano, as he prepared to not know really what was going to happen the first day at Oak Lawn. Coming to Oak Lawn, and locating this community was a highly competitive decision. Oak Lawn store is opening ahead of Evergreen Park, ahead of Northbrook, ahead of Naperville, and ahead of some other communities that are yet to be made publicly known, but they are on the way. And as Trustee Olenichik correctly said, today, without question, and I say without question, not even close, was a record day. So I'd like to thank the residents of Oak Lawn, the president of our Chamber of Commerce, Michelle Williams, who was in the audience, and also a manager at another fine institution in this community that is building a beautiful bank and development, Midwest Bank and retail on 95th Street. Thank you, Michelle. But the residents really get the credit today because I think they listen. They do get it, as Trustee Carberry says, every single time. Oak Lawnians buy local. They tend to read that village sticker, which says Shop Oak Lawn, and they shop with their pocketbooks. So thank you very much for supporting local business, supporting your mayor and your board. Hats off to you. You've done a wonderful job. Now I have just a couple brief slides because I think they're important. I apologize for the quality of the last one that Mr. Radis will show you. This Thursday, our Architectural Design and Review Board will be given a presentation by Cooper's Hawk Restaurant and Winery. And they were present Monday night, and they were completely floored as well by the outturn of the community. And they are so excited to begin construction on Cooper's Hawk. I believe the architecture that will be reviewed and eventually approved by our architectural board will once again be iconic, will be better than any other Cooper's Hawk, particularly in neighboring communities like Naperville and Orland Park. And I hope better than the two restaurants that were just built and opened in Orlando and the one that will open in November in Richmond, Virginia. So hats off to Oak Lawn, and I told the folks from Cooper's Hawk you can expect the same sort of response from Oak Lawnians because it's your community, and if you patronize and shop and eat at these fine establishments, they will be yours. If you don't, someone else will take advantage of it. So that's the challenge out there, and Oak Lawn's always met that challenge every time. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Board. I had presented a quick PowerPoint presentation just to give the residents of Oak Lawn a quick update from the last presentation I made at the last first board meeting in August. I think it was August 12th, about a month ago. But off the record, I started thinking about something here that I had learned earlier this year when I went to a governmental studies program in Naperville. I was fortunate to go there, and during this program, one of the questions came up by the professor, and he said, does anyone in the audience know what the #1 reason businesses either leave communities or decide not to go to a community? So we all raised our hand. Someone said location. Someone else said demographics. I think taxes was brought up. I think density and population was also another answer. And he looked at us, he said, nope, no to all of them. So we were all like, what? He said, #1 reason businesses don't come to other communities or they decide to leave is when public officials in public on TV are negative, calling each other names, putting people down, yelling, screaming. That's the #1 reason. We've done a great job in Oak Lawn, I think, over the last several years, bringing businesses here, and this board has worked tirelessly. My predecessor worked hard. I'm working hard. But we still have a lot of work to do. We still have vacancies in Oak Lawn, and we're not done. Our job's not done till there's not one vacancy left. It's going to be a hard task, but we're up for it. But every time we do this on TV, we're taking 2 steps back, and it's hurting every one of us. I'm a resident also. It's hurting every one of us. So if you see your village official doing that, whoever he or she is, or me, come to us. Ask us not to do it because it's hurting all of us. All right, now on to why I was here. Again, thank you for everyone who attended Fall on the Green this weekend. It was a great event, a lot of fun. Trustee Desmond, you thanked a lot of people, but you forgot to thank yourself for being the special events liaison and all the hard work you did, as well as Steve Barrett and his team. I know you thanked him, Dia Daziak, Brian Hannigan, all the volunteers and all the sponsors that made it possible, as well as all the residents that attended. Here's our quick update here. The pictures you see here I took today. Mariano's, again, what a special addition to our village. This is a picture from this morning, all the flowers out there open for business. I was talking with the manager, Tom Kearney, last night, and they've hired roughly 450 employees thus far, and the best he could give me, couldn't give me an exact number, but he said nearly 200, he could safely say, were Oak Lawn residents. So, you know, kudos to Mr. Mariano, to Tom Kearney, to their recruiting team of Krista, Morgan, Leah, Roxy, and anyone else who I'm forgetting. They've done a great job, and they've worked tirelessly. So thank you for making a difference in 200 families in Oak Lawn, Mariano's. The picture on the left I took August 11th, almost a month ago. Parking lot empty. Today, took me about 10 minutes just to find a spot. It was bursting with energy today. So, as Trustee Quinlan said, congratulations to them. Stony Creek Promenade Phase 2. Trustee Quinlan has been a big advocate of bringing in more retail, hopefully some specialty stores women would like to go to, as have the other trustees. But we're talking to many different businesses. We've talked to a movie theater recently, a specialty movie theater, several different restaurants without divulging any names, microbrewery. So we're looking at all the options. We'll communicate with the village officials, trustees, mayor, manager, and clerk as we get these opportunities as they become available. And hopefully we're lucky enough to sign on some more great businesses as we did with Phase 1. Little updated Hooters. The picture on the upper left was taken a month ago. The picture on the right and on the bottom were taken today, so they made some great advances there. Walls are up, and looks like they're rocking and rolling there. Looking forward to Hooters opening up, and then they'll start demolition of the old building. Here is the Walgreens at 95th and Austin Avenue. The picture on the left was a month ago. Today, they've got the walls are vertical, and they've knocked down the old bank building that was in front, and they're making great headway. So again, it's amazing what they can do in a month as long as the weather cooperates. This is the old Carpet One interior building. Top picture, again, a month ago. Today, totally down. They're getting the foundation sides in for the foundation. So again, making great progress there to make room for the Women's Health Institute of Illinois that we spoke about last meeting, scheduled to open up probably mid-2015, again, depending on weather. Here's the Oak Lawn Bank. The pictures on top were taken in June and August. The picture at the bottom was taken today, so they've made great headway, turning into a beautiful building. I'm going to skip the next slide, but I do have one last slide that I don't think anyone's aware of, but we had a little ALS Ice Bucket Challenge on Sunday, and I might get fired for showing this, but on the left is Trustee Vorder taking a bath there. We've got
3 buckets on Trustee Vorder and his wife. 3 buckets.
Mayor Burry
It hurts.
in the middle. Yeah. and Clerk Quinlan on the right there. But it was.
And you were standing next to me. Where's your photo?
I couldn't find that one, Mayor. I'm sorry. I just found these three just out of coincidence. But so I thought I'd share it with you. It was a lot of fun, and it was an honor to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, the mayor, trustee, and clerk, they were all great sports doing this. So that concludes my report, and hopefully we can keep things positive and work together and move forward. And I do understand, as village officials, there's always going to be disagreements, and there's going to be you're never going to all see the same side, and I do understand that. But I do think keeping it respectful is really important, and that's everybody. I'm not singling out anybody. It goes for myself and every village official. And I think if we make more of a point, like Trustee Carberry said, to do that, I think it benefits all of us. So thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate that. Briefly on the Stormwater MWRD meeting, I do want to repeat, we have put it on our website, and we do have a publication on our Channel 4, but ComEd has activated their EOC, and in light of the upcoming storms that we all saw flooding the streets on US 10, Interstate 10 is a major highway crossing from Florida to California, and there were cars completely flooded, evacuations in that area. That was a flash flood condition. Hopefully this storm takes a different path or slides through the area in a different fashion, but ComEd has activated their EOC, and we're anticipating rainstorms beginning in the early morning hours. So I just want to make that alert, and again, the way ComEd operates, calling your trustee or calling the manager's office or even emergency dispatch in a power outage is not as effective as calling 1-800-OUTAGE-1, 1-800-EDISON-1, excuse me, or 1-800-334-7661. And their system of responding to outages is triggered by those calls that are received electronically, and when they have a mass of their boards lighting up of outages, that's going to trigger units and repair persons to respond quicker to Oak Lawn than neighboring communities based on the frequency of the call and the location of the call. So that's really an important statistic. And again, I do want to briefly just state there was a resident here earlier, and I believe that that resident left because of the late hour. I've had 3 conversations with her today, and she was kind enough to talk about a dispatch concern she had, an issue. Unfortunately, she was talking to me about something that occurred 90 days ago. She didn't have the time. She didn't remember the circumstances. But we were able, as someone said tonight in the dais, we do record every call that comes in, and we're able to analyze those calls. But the men and women that provide that service are real live people. They care about their job just like any of us do about our job. There's a pride in doing the job right. They know the importance of public safety. They know that they're the lifeblood for police and fire, no different than our crossing guards. They're all part of public safety, all work together. Now, we are not perfect. We do make mistakes, and we have a long way to go to be the service that I think everyone deserves in this community and our neighboring communities. But I will tell you, we had those issues for many years, probably spanning to the early 1990s. At least 3 of my predecessors before I arrived in Oak Lawn talked about Central Dispatch. I've had the pleasure of doing Central Dispatch in several other communities in other parts of the country. I know a little bit about dispatch, and I can assure you that the training they receive, the professionalism and the protocol is a standard practice for all dispatchers across the United States. They have a professional association. NINA is the name of that association, and they all have explicit training that they receive. It's no different than what we provide here or elsewhere. When we made the transaction, we took with us and retained our director, Kathy Hansen. Kathy did resign from her position, and promoted from his position was Rich Bissett, who is our current director. Rich comes with a background technically. He's a resident of Oak Lawn with his family, a very fine gentleman, and doing his very best and pride and professionalism to provide good services. The three supervisors, we have 3 shifts, and we have 3 supervisors. We had that a year ago before we switched to Norcom, and we had it 5 years ago. And those 3 supervisors are the same individuals, wonderful people, all 3 caring individuals, and they are Oak Lawn employees. And they manage what's called a staffing agreement. So Norcom provides dispatchers, but on any given time, barring a vacation, someone's illness, we have 3 supervisors. And I can tell you that they, all 3 of them have, since January 22nd, when we made the change, have really deferred a lot of their vacation, their time off, because of their dedication. They're wonderful men and women. The concept of the open house is not to do, as someone described, presentation of animals. It is a concept that the private sector uses very effectively. It's a concept that government uses effectively, schools use effectively. I think as a parent, I don't know how many open houses I went. Great opportunity to meet teachers, great opportunity to learn about your child, great opportunity to meet the principal. Well, that's what we're doing here. We give tours. If you go to the city of Chicago and you want to take a tour, some of their facilities are a wonderful tour. You want to take a tour of a manufacturing plant, we have some fine manufacturing plants that have tours in the greater Chicago area, because Chicago does make things. Case of dispatch, it's a service business. It is not a formula. The calls that come in, they've handled well over 110,000 since the switchover. And someone earlier quoted statistics, even before the switchover. The men and women who served this before did a very fine job. The men and women who handle our dispatch today do a very fine job. It was a difficult, very emotional change for all the right reasons or wrong reasons. This board, in my opinion, approved it. I made the recommendation. I stand by my decision. If someone wants to blame, you can blame me. Do not blame this board. I made the professional decision based upon my judgment that that was in the best interest for the village, and I do believe, barring some of the what I think has been unfair criticism, let's address the fair criticism, because there is fair criticism. We make mistakes, but each one individually. I was able to speak to this woman today. If she had stayed, I know her number. I'll call this individual tomorrow, and I'll share with you what happened. In this case, corrective action was in order for that particular dispatcher. But we handled it as an employer should do. We did not demean that person. We did not publicly beat them or bring them to the town square and put them up for a ringing. We did what we could to assist that dispatcher in being a better dispatcher. It's no different than what we do with trainees in police, trainees in fire, trainees in other organizations in the village. And Trustee Desmond, I'd like to thank you and others for recognizing many of our employees volunteer for this Fall in the Green. Fall in the Green is successful. Again, another record year because of volunteers, your special events, but also employees. Not every employee gets overtime. Yes, some get overtime. They deserve that. But others volunteer. They're in the booth selling tickets. They're at the information booth. They're helping Brian Hannigan back and forth, making trip after trip, handling the money, escorted by the police. Those are all volunteer hours. If I put a price tag on it, we're talking thousands of hours. So I salute every man and woman, this organization volunteered time across across the board, you do a wonderful job. Briefly on MWRD, because our board has done a good job. I think that Trustee Olenichik demonstrated that he's on the top of the game as your chair of your Public Works Committee. What I call game changers are before this board. Number one, in Trustee Quinlan's district, Trustee Quinlan's been a tireless advocate of getting more detention in our area. The Oakdale is not sufficient in size, so we're looking to work with Cook County, thanks to Cook County Commissioner Daley, who's done a great job, and thanks to the MWRD. We have a commitment. I have my note here on an August 27th meeting that was held in the village of Oak Lawn. The quote was, "We are on top of that. Keep doing the engineering with White Engineering." We believe that 103rd will be reconstructed. It needs to be reconstructed, but when it's reconstructed between Cicero and Central, it will be excavated, and there will be storm detention containers, large concrete vaults that will hold millions of gallons of storm water during a runoff, and then will allow that water to go flowing into the Stony Creek when the Stony Creek elevation has resided and the peak of the storm is over. That will double, at the very least, conservatively, maybe triple the size of the nearby Oakdale retention, which has done a good job, but it was not cost effective for the size and what can be done under 103rd. So thank you everybody who's worked on that. That project is under what's called Phase 1 engineering. When Phase 1 engineering is complete, we'll present it to the respective regulatory boards asking for their funding and support. We paying for the engineering, the village, and hopefully them paying for the entire cost of the construction. Regarding the cemetery project is, this is, for clarification, there are well over 140 acres of undeveloped land classified as open space parkland. The issue, public issue, is what's the highest and best use? Another cemetery or continued open space in what's called an environmentally sustainable detention area for stormwater. The size of any of it that saw the Burbank Reservoir, known as the Melvina Reservoir, on our northern end at 87th, that size is meager compared to what could be built at St. Casimir. So that's why village officials have worked so hard. And yes, there's conflicting goals, but thanks to the engineering firm we brought on board, Mr. O'Brien, Terry O'Brien, K+, he was the former president of MWRD. He's done a masterful job in advancing the line of communications to see that that project comes in. MWRD has committed $13 million. So there's a commitment of 13. The 103rd project is at the very least, $10 to $15 million project. So that's $25 million. Then we have about ready, poised to be constructed in the spring of 2015, already funded $6 million, and another approximately $6 to $10 million for bank stabilization of the open section of Melvina Ditch from 95th behind the Chicago Ridge Mall to the confluence that Trustee Strite spoke to, and Trustee Olenichik, where Oak Creek, Stony Creek, and Melvina Ditch come together, causing an incredible flow, millions of gallons of water to collide, if you will, and cause a backup in the back of the system. It's pretty easy to understand. Trustee Olenichik gave a presentation at his district meeting. It was outstanding with graphs, charts, elevations, and I think the residents appreciated that presentation. We're certainly open to give that presentation again if anyone wants to avail themselves of that. And then the final project is bank stabilization, already funded and scheduled hopefully for construction 2015 as well. So it's not a dream, it's not a concept, it is a budgeted item. Oak Creek bank stabilization from Central all the way along the north end of Stony Creek Golf Course, and that will stabilize the banks and do some of the additional cleaning that Trustee Quinlan spoke to, which is an important maintenance, keeping the streams clean of debris after storms, particularly after winter and during the summer season is, as she mentioned, an important function. Now, everybody's here talking about flooding. To some extent, you're in the wrong pew. If you go to the audit we just went through, and for those who are interested in statistics, and I heard tonight a lot are, I would call your attention to page 144 in our comprehensive audit, which Brian will have on our website, and page 146. Currently, every year, taxpayers in Oak Lawn collectively provide $4 million in your tax dollars go to MWRD. The mill rate, or the tax rate, is 0.37. For comparison, you pay the county 0.53 for county services. So on your tax bill, in addition to what you pay for everything the village provides, police pensions, fire pensions, village corporate, you pay every year on your tax bill. You take your assessed valuation and multiply that times 0.37, and you will determine how much of your tax dollar is going for managing stormwater and sewer handling of your sanitary waste. So that's a big number. That's increased over the years, and it's important that certainly through your local elected officials, but as well you have elected members that you elect to the MWRD board, and make yourself known. They're easy to communicate with. Mayor Burry just did an excellent interview on Channel 4 with one of the directors, and that was out there. So I encourage you to do that. Mayor, that's all I have for the evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Larry.
We took care of
Okay.
another.
Okay, so we did 15 and 16. We're on to item 17. This is a request to approve the Planning and Development Commission referral for variation from impervious surface ordinance to allow for an above-ground pool at 4544 West 101st Street, petitioner 2014-19, Michael and Susan Panisse, I believe is how you say it, in District 4. And then we have item 18, which is an ordinance granting that variance. So may I have a motion on 17 and 18, please?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Desmond.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Carberry. Any discussion on these two items? Please take the roll.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Ordinance 142555 is an ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 1, Section 6, and Title 4, Chapter 13, Sections 3 and 4 of the Oak Lawn Village Code pertaining to off-street parking regulations. May I have a motion on this item, please?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by Trustee Oliniechek.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Desmond. Any discussion here?
Yes, Mayor.
Trustee Strite.
And I know that there's been a lot of time put into this ordinance, and I appreciate that. I was at one of the meetings where it was discussed, and I have concern. I raised concerns at that point, and I'd just like to briefly raise them here. And this new ordinance will essentially cut the parking for medical and commercial developments in half. The reduction in parking requirements, I believe, is a recipe for trouble. I've never had anyone complain to me that they were upset because they had too many parking spaces to choose from. On the contrary, we've heard over and over about the lack of parking at popular stores and venues, such as 51st Street Station, around the Prairie Town Center, and pretty much all of the stores in the center of town. Reducing the required number of parking spaces for medical buildings presents a different problem as well. There may be more handicapped or impaired people who have to walk further if there are no parking spots available. And if there's not enough parking around the development, of course, people then must park in the neighborhoods, which of course impacts the residents who live in those neighborhoods. You know, I believe that if parking is to be cut, and there is a strong argument for that, but the proposed amount is too high. So I believe that there should be more discussion to this issue.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Does,
Trustee
Strike-
Quinlan?
Are you making a motion to postpone this again?
I'd like to refer it back to,
So you're making a motion?
well, I'll make
Can
that
you
motion.
form it in a motion?
Sure.
Okay,
I move
so-
that we send this back to planning development.
Second.
Okay. So we have a first and a motion and a second. Any discussion? So this
We have a
is,
second?
yeah, Trustee Oliniechek, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, Trustee Oliniechek. Yeah, that's okay. We're all kind of getting a little tired here. Any discussion? So-
Mayor, if I could, I don't have an issue with the action the board's about to take. I do believe that Jack's here in attendance. The board has worked very hard, the commission, on this ordinance.
I acknowledge that.
And I think that they'll be asking you questions because they've been looking at for years. They did some great benchmarking with other communities. The problem is what Trustee Strite failed to acknowledge is this board repeatedly, at least as long as I know, has approved literally every single project with a variance because the consultant comes forth before the planning commission and presents the facts and says you have an antiquated ordinance. It is out of step with reality. And finally, the planning commission just said, well, you know, we have an obligation. So they directed Jack and his staff to work with legal counsel, come up with the changes. So if we do send it back to the planning commission, I think the comments that Bob made are okay, but make sure it's known. Why are we sending them back? Because I believe that they'll probably want to know that before they deliberate again.
Thank you.
It may be even wise for a trustee to attend one of the meetings and explain, as opposed to letting staff do it, what their reasons are for that change.
Madam Mayor,
Trustee Carberry.
I'm going to support this. I think we can go back. You know, there's always going
So
to be a debate.
are you
whether-
supporting moving it to committee or supporting? Okay, so you're
No.
opposing what's before the board right now?
Yes.
Thank
and
you.
I think there's been a lot of work done on it. I think we got to start somewhere, and if there needs to be a change after that, we can go back and make a change. But they've vetted
Okay.
it. They've worked very hard on it, a lot harder than probably anyone here
Okay.
has. And I think it's time to act.
Okay, I'm going to go to
Yeah,
Trustee
and I've
Warder,
been
then
to many
Trustee
of those
Quinlan.
P&D meetings where much of this discussion has taken place, and I agree with Jack, and I agree with you. This has been vented, and this is very necessary to move forward. Parking has always been an issue in Oak Lawn. It is in my district around the hospital. There isn't any cure to it, but we need to be competitive in attracting business, so I will be voting against this motion, too.
Okay, Trustee Quinlan.
I think this is exactly why we need to relook at it. This is the first time it has come before this board. Yes, Planning and Development has been working on it. And parking is such an issue for Oak Lawn. I mean, it just is. So you are now, by agreeing to this, you've taken away that power. Yes, Larry may be right that we have approved these variances, but we've been able to look at every case and say, can we work with that? And the answer has been yes, but as more and more, new buildings come up or, bigger buildings on the same lot, and parking is going to be more of an issue. And to give that control away right now, I think is silly, especially when we're so congested downtown. I think it's just worth re-looking at it. And do we have to, cut it so majorly? Maybe, we bump it up a little bit.
Madam Mayor, may I?
To
Yes,
allow
Trustee
for more.
Oliniechek.
Well, I think it's reasonable that Trustee Strite said that he had a recommendation of moving it up a little bit. So maybe we don't have to go back to committee. What's the percentage that you thought would be reasonable? Is it an extra 10% on there?
Well, I think actually, I believe this proposal has four spaces per 1,000 square foot. Jack, is that?
Yeah, can you take the microphone? This is our village engineer, Jack Gallagher.
The information that's in your packet is was prepared by our attorneys. There's 15 communities in here that we're basing this on. So this isn't a number that we came up arbitrarily. So 4 to 5 spaces, yeah.
But
I
do
mean,
they have the
4 to 5
parking
spaces
issues?
per
Trustee
1,000.
Quinlan,
These are very
Go
similar
through the chair,
benchmark
please.
communities. So yeah.
They're what?
Benchmark community, very similar to Oak Lawn.
As far as how congested
these-
they are
yeah, I
in
mean,
the
these
downtown
communities,
areas?
you can see it in your packets.
Yeah,
You see the
so here.
tables in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't done with the
Jack, can you list a few of the communities in case the trustee doesn't have her packet with her?
Schaumburg, Naperville, Northbrook, Elk Grove Village, Downers Grove, Lombard.
That means nothing to me.
Trustee
by
Quinlan, let him read, and then I'll turn the floor to
Chicago
you,
Ridge,
please.
LaGrange, Evergreen Park, Bolingbrook. So they're all, and these are these are commonly accepted standards that other communities follow. So
Okay, Trustee Quinlan?
And I understand what you're saying, Jack, and I know that you guys have put a lot of time into it. I don't know personally those communities. All I know is Oak Lawn, and we have a hell of a problem with parking. And so now we're saying that we're going to reduce that. And I'm just saying that I think before we pass this, because once you pass it and someone comes in and says, well, you know, gets it at that lower standard, everybody's going to expect that. And it's just opening up a can of worms. And I don't see an issue. It's not a big rush for this to go back and to maybe honor our request of maybe bumping that a little bit. Whatever that percentage, that might make more sense.
and the other point that Larry made is we approve variances that are huge. So they're 50%, 40%, 30%, because our requirement is so high, and it's the perception is that we're granting these huge variances. In reality, they're way off the chart compared to what's
And
the norm.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with that. But this board is able to look at those cases individually, and you know, it may be maybe you know next week one comes before us, and
I think
it just is not a good situation. So I'm just.
I think we'll still have as many petitions. I think we'll just have smaller variances. I think we'll have the same number of petitions.
Thank you.
Yeah, but-
Trustee Desmond?
Yeah,
and
just to
then
be
Trustee-
clear, but isn't that what we're talking about? We're not actually talking about reducing parking in businesses. We're talking about reducing the requirement for a variation.
Well,
for variance.
what we're talking about is moving this back to committee,
I
but yes,
understand
the
that, but,
issue
yeah.
before that, yes, you're exactly
we're not
correct.
requiring business to move parking from their lot to the street. We're just changing the requirements for a variance.
Correct,
the number of spots.
correct. And Trustee Olenichek?
Well, dealing with the issues that I have in second district, just right here with the bank that's going up and the issues that we're having already with restrained parking in this area, then going up and down 95th Street, and even looking at Cicero Avenue that we have some issues with. I don't think it would be bad to go back and ask the committee to just look at it again. I'd be more than happy to attend the meeting. I've been to a meeting about a part of this in traffic flow. I just think that it's one of those things that I'd rather have the ability to look at that, because our neighborhoods are all very different. I mean, when you look at some of the older neighborhoods, we're restricted in the things we can do. Some of the newer neighborhoods, you know, moving off to 111th Street, they have a little bit more land, a little bit more ability to spread things out. So I really would like to, and it's not an insult to the committee. I know that they've vetted it and they've looked at it. I really think that it's worth to take another look at it.
Okay, so Trustee Olenichek and Trustee Straight and Trustee Quinlan so far who are supportive of that, I need you to get as much detailed information to them so they can do their job, and you know, if the board ends up going in that direction. So Trustee Desmond.
Yeah, I mean, if we end up always granting these variances anyway, aren't we just removing one more obstacle
For a business, to
for a
come into
business?
town, yes, exactly. And it will speed up the process for them to go through the system, absolutely. Yes, Steve Radis.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can you get the microphone and,
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. You know, the one thing that maybe we overlooked here is just giving an example. I think the board, Trustee Straight, made it clear to me that he'd like to move medical onto Southwest Highway, as have probably all the other trustees, and keep medical off of 95th Street. I don't know exactly what the new ordinance would be, but I can tell you that if we reduce the variance, there's a chance that medical can go somewhere on 95th Street where in fact we might not want it there, but we lose control if we lower that number. So possibly we leave medical alone then, if that's even an option.
I think the engineer's disagreeing with what you're saying, but I think there's enough confusion. I'm gonna.
Can I just make one more point? Right
Yes.
down the street, Madam Mayor, right off of the 51st Street development, you don't have a variance was granted. Granted, it wasn't by anybody. Well, not all of us sitting at this board, but there was a variance granted for that development, and it has caused nothing but problems in the neighborhood because they got the variance, they've got the building up there, the built businesses are fighting for the parking spaces, whether it's a salon or it's a pizza place or it's a ice cream place, and it's going into the neighborhood. Now you get the no parking, resident permit parking only. I mean, I really don't. I respect what the other trustees are saying, but I can tell you that it is a huge issue, especially with some of the things that have been granted in the past. And I think that we need to have the ability, because I will tell you that if I was on the board, I wouldn't have granted that variance with what I've seen in the neighborhood.
Okay, so what we're voting on is taking. Okay, Jack, go ahead.
I was just going to say one of the things we're fixing is how we describe the variance instead of it being square feet per square foot of use, which, so we at least want to fix that. I think that's really confusing to developers, so,
Okay.
in response to Steve's comment.
So, okay, Trustee Desmond.
Look, I mean, we're reducing the parking space, right, the size of the parking space.
And that's also an antiquated, we have a 20-foot
Right, I mean,
length.
we're talking about,
Yeah.
going from the old Lincoln Continental that
Right.
was 20 feet long and 10 feet wide to more compact car, so we can actually fit more cars.
Right. It really comes down to, we grant all the parking variances that go before, they all get approved. So how big is the parking variance going to be is really what it, to make this pro-development.
Yeah, okay, very good. So, well, you're asking us to kind of split it up. I think it's kind of confusing to do that. I'd rather have the whole thing come through
That's
at
fine,
once
yeah.
rather than pull a
He's
section
asking for it
out.
to all go through, correct?
I mean, I
You're
would.
comfortable with it
if
as
I
is,
mean, I want the
correct?
board to be comfortable with it too. So if we want to put it back on the PNDC, and everybody's happy after that, I mean, I'd rather have it approved tonight. But
If your recommendation, Jack, is
Yeah.
to go through with it, I'm gonna support it.
Well,
I'm familiar with what you're trying to accomplish, and I don't think it's an issue.
yeah.
and we can always adjust it later, like you
Well,
said.
yeah, and it can be adjusted later. So right now, we're voting on sending it back to the committee. We can send it also to the committee of the whole, give them clear direction, and then, or before it comes to us again at the board, have it leave committee, go to committee of the whole. That's another option too. But I would just like to see something move forward, because not all aspects of this, are controversial. Okay, so we're voting to send it back to committee.
PD&C.
PD&C, yeah.
Take the roll.
Please take the roll.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
No.
Trustee Carberry?
No.
Trustee Vorder?
No.
Trustee Straight?
Yes.
President Barry?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
motion passes.
Yeah, so that'll go back to committee then, and do you folks, just a general consensus, do you want it before committee of the whole before it comes here, or once it leaves committee, just move forward?
communicate with our engineer that's been
Yeah.
working on it
Yeah.
for some time now.
Yeah, I've been comfortable. I turned the meeting. I understand the concept, but
he's
what we're
accepted.
doing
Okay.
here, we're just delaying the inevitable.
Okay,
I
so,
think what
go ahead,
just
trustee
like, you know,
Quinlan. Thank you for
if
asking.
If you look at who voted yes to go to committee, we've sat in these boards and seen, you know, some of the issues that have happened, you know, maybe because of poor decisions in the past about the parking variances. So I'm just saying, based on our experience and, you know, some poor choices that us as well as other board members have made in the past makes us more hesitant on this whole issue, so.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge all of you who have feedback. They need it as specific as possible. Jack, anything else you require from them? Maybe attend the meeting and
Call me before the meeting if you want to discuss it too. That's a good way to, anybody wants to call me on it.
Okay, thank you.
Jack, why don't you I'd like to hear the comments too. Maybe send an email out to everybody and whatever, you know, whatever's hashed out, I'd like to know. Maybe
Thank you.
it was something that yourself or the village manager didn't bring up to me before.
Thank you. Okay, item 20. Moving on. This is ordinance 142556. This is an ordinance authorizing a curb cut for the parking lot of Lieb School on Oak Park Avenue. I may have a motion on item 20, please.
Motion to approve.
I'm going to give it to trustee Desmond because it's his district as the first, seconded by trustee Quinlan. Any discussion here? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 21 is Resolution 142552. This is a resolution approving a Phase 3 professional engineering services agreement with White and Company pursuant to the 93rd and Central Intersection Improvement Project. May I have a motion on item 21?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by trustee Oliniechek.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Vorder. Any discussion here? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So item 22, this is resolution 142553, a resolution approving value engineering agreement with Cape Plus Engineering for stormwater improvements in the vicinity of 111th Street and Cicero Avenue. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by trustee Carberry,
Second.
seconded by trustee Quinlan. Any discussion here? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 23 is a request to approve the hiring of 2 firefighter/paramedics from the current eligibility list. May I have a motion on this item, please?
Motion to approve.
Properly moved by trustee Oliniechek, seconded by trustee Strite. Any discussion here? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan?
Yes.
Trustee Oliniechek?
Yes.
Trustee Desmond?
Yes.
Trustee Carberry?
Yes.
Trustee Vorder?
Yes.
Trustee Strike?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
I just have a question for the chief, just for information on this item. Chief, are all firefighters paramedics, or how does that work? Just for the edification of the public.
Well, currently, our staff, we do have some firefighters that are just firefighters, but we have worked with the Police and Fire Commission that any new hires would be firefighter paramedics. They serve dual purposes, so.
Are they required to maintain that certification throughout their career?
No, they're not.
Okay.
After so many
do we
years.
train them to maintain that certification? Or do we train them?
We do not train the new hires, but there's continuing education that the village provides to those
Okay.
firefighters.
Okay, so anyone can be hired as that, but they don't need to stay that way.
Well, in the union contract, you have several years as a firefighter paramedic,
Okay.
and after so many years, you can drop that certification.
Okay, okay. I was just concerned that I learned that this training costs upwards of $50,000, and the people don't have to maintain it once they, get that. I was shocked to learn that. Okay, item 24, a request to approve the change in insurance providers to Blue Cross Blue Shield effective October 1st, 2014. May I have a motion on item 24?
Motion approved.
Properly moved by trustee Desmond, seconded by trustee Carberry. Any discussion here? Please take the roll.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Lanichik.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Straight.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, item 25, village clerk's report. Turning the floor to you, Jane.
All right. Approval of semi-monthly disbursement number 2014-16D dated August 26, 2014 in the amount of $2,563,669.02.
May I have a motion, please, on item 25A?
Motion approved.
Properly moved by trustee Carberry,
Second.
seconded by trustee Vorderer. Any discussion? Please take the vote.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Lanichik.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Straight.
Yes.
Motion passes. And B, disbursement resolution number 2014-17D dated September 9th, 2014 in the amount of $5,399,272.53.
Motion approved.
Properly moved by trustee Carberry,
Second.
seconded by trustee Vorderer. Please take any discussion. Please take the roll.
Trustee Quinlan.
Yes.
Trustee Lanichik.
Yes.
Trustee Desmond.
Yes.
Trustee Carberry.
Yes.
Trustee Vorder.
Yes.
Trustee Straight.
Yes.
Motion passes. That's it.
That's it? Nothing else? Okay, moving on to the president's report. Jane, can you come to the podium? Sure. Thank you.
Filed.
Jane, I just have a little special thing I want to talk about with you.
Oh, thank you.
Does the number 44 mean anything to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, does the number 1,300 mean anything to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, 1,300 municipalities in Illinois, and only 44 of them, Oak Lawn is number 44, have a master municipal clerk in the clerk's office, in the clerk's position. Jane, I want to congratulate you. You've worked for years on the educational requirements. There are ethics requirements, professional and social contributions you have to make. It was a point system. You earned 100 points. You are a true professional. Jane, among your colleagues, you are the cream of the crop, the top of your game. And not only that, you are a leader in your profession. Very soon you will be taking office as
already,
you
yes.
did. Okay, can you tell me about that?
Well, I'm president of the South and West Clerks Association, and that covers about 120 municipalities, and great organization, and we just want to keep up our professional skills. Thank you.
So, on behalf of the Board of Trustees,
Thank you.
and all the residents
Well,
in
thank you
Oak
very
Lawn who
much.
you serve all the time, I want to congratulate you on this great honor, Jane.
I'd like to thank the former board's support all along, and also this current board. Thank you very much. Thanks, Terry.
Windy City.
Same thing.
I'll come down to you tonight. That's really support. Thanks, Tim, for your support. It means a lot.
You don't know how wonderful it is to have a true professional at your side. Any details, I tell you, Jane is on it. As a clerk, she does general management, records management, she knows elections, she knows meeting administration, management of legal instruments, Financial management, execution of official documents, and she is the custodian of the Village of Oak Lawn seal. She knows it all. Thank you, Jane.
I do try. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Very proud of you. So on September 11th, it's a little bit of a late announcement, but at 9:11 in the morning on September 11th, the Village of Oak Lawn will have a very small memorial, as we always have every year, at the Patriot Station, which is right the metro station at the monument there. So I'd like to invite every resident to attend. I've asked Trustee Strite for several times the residents who are interested in service. He said he had 54 names. He did not share one of them with me. So if any of those residents are interested in serving on committees, please be in touch with me. I don't know why Trustee Strite is not interested in giving the information, but if you have an interest, I'm interested in your name. So fall on the green. Thank you, Trustee Desmond, for your leadership. Thank you, everyone. Fantastic event. And Mariano's, welcome to Oak Lawn, and let's shop Oak Lawn. And with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn,
moved.
please. Properly moved by Trustee Olenichek. Seconded by Trustee Vorder. Any discussion? Please take the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay. Well, just about 10 o'clock.
Yes, sir.